Hello and welcome to Fireside Chat with Shaifali Season 2, Episode 2. The year 2022 is very special as 2022 marks the 70th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between India and Japan. And to celebrate this momentous year, Indo-Japan Business Council has decided to host a series of events. Let us work together to forge a vibrant India-Japan relationship for future generations. For more details, please visit our website www.ijbc.org. So for this episode, before I move ahead, quickly, I want to give the introduction of my today's guest. My today's guest is Chef Brehadeesh Kumar. He is a co-owner and the head chef at Gingko, a Japanese restaurant in Pune. He has been fervently passionate about Japan since he was in primary school, which is what motivated to go further to pursue a BA in Japanese language and literature at DMV Pune. Right after pursuing hotel management at IHM Mumbai, he then received the Maxed Japan Government Scholarship to study in Chiba University and presented his research in Japanese about Wagashi, Japanese confectionery. Meanwhile, he also trained for a couple of months at a 3 Michelin kaiseki cuisine ryotei called Kikkonoi in Kyoto, and an Indian restaurant run by Japanese people called Sitar in Chiba. Initially, his plan was to work as a translator or interpreter, but realized that there are very few people in India who have learned Japanese culinary arts. So he took up the challenge to bridge the gap between the two countries in the food and beverage industry. It has since then been his primary goal to spread awareness about Japanese cuisine in India, about Indian cuisine in Japan, in whatever way possible. So please welcome Chef Brehadeesh Kumar to Fireside Chat with Shaifali. A warm welcome to you, Brehadeesh.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Glad to be here with you all today.
Thank you, Brehadeesh, for joining us. I know you must be very busy, but I'm so glad that you joined here. So
it's my pleasure. Yes.
Thank you. So before moving to my question here, I would like to know that in your introduction, it was mentioned that you like Japanese, you were infatuated toward Japanese language. So what was the reason behind that infatuation, like from primary school, primary classes? So what was the reason?
So actually, when I was in primary school, I used to collect coins, and the first coin that I actually got was from my grandfather, and it was a Japanese 10 yen coin, or what you call in Japanese a juendama. So the backside of it, the effigy on it was actually Byodo-in. It's a temple near Kyoto in this town called Uji, and the effigy was really detailed. Like the roof, each tile on the roof was very clearly engraved on the coin, and that kind of sparked an interest in me about how I had so many other coins, but this particular coin was so intricate and detailed. So that's kind of the starting point of where I thought, okay, well, Japan is something that's piquing my interest, so I need to know more about this. And then going on, like I think in second or third grade, one of our Hindi books had a chapter about Japan, and this author goes to Japan and travels there and speaks about his experiences there. So that's again something that made me a little more interested. And from there on, there was no turning back. Like I used to watch a lot of shows related to Japan. There was this show called Japanology Plus on YouTube, on NHK World. So I used to watch those. And then when I joined college in 11th and 12th, I also had a Japanese subject. So that's where I started learning the language. And yeah, that's since then I have gone further and further. No turning back.
So that was the time when you started, means 11th or 12th was the time when you started learning Japanese language.
Yes, exactly.
What was that the exactly time when you thought that you going to make the career in Japanese language?
Actually, I chose science in my 11th and 12th, and I was since there was an option of Japanese language, I was like, might as well take it and see whether I like it or not. But since I started delving deeper into it, I started liking it much more than I imagined it to be. I thought maybe I want to make a career which involves Japanese language. I mean, obviously, I didn't want it to be the main career path for me. I At one point I thought maybe I'll be an interpreter or a translator, but I felt like it's a job that's not well suited for me because I was more into food as well. I liked to create things. I like to use my hands to make something nice, pretty looking. So I thought maybe something that involves both of these skills would be definitely nice, and that's how I ended up where I am today.
So after 10, after your 12th means from, science background,
Yes.
you opted for BA in Japanese.
Yeah, so actually, I did my 12th in science and Japanese, and then I went on to do IHM, hotel management. That was in Mumbai. That was for 3 years, and after that, I did a BA in Japanese.
Oh, means previously it was hotel management, then BA in Japanese.
Yes. So one of the like my third year of hotel management and my first year of BA in Japanese were overlapping. So I was doing both of them together, and then I did my second and third year of Japanese as a full-time student.
So how difficult it was to manage the hotel management program along with the BA in Japanese language, because both require a lot of concentration.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was very difficult for me because I used to be in Mumbai from Monday to Friday, and Saturdays and Sundays I used to go to Pune
Wow.
and uh, and force my teachers, my sensei, to teach me whatever she has taught throughout the week, which I've missed in the classes. And then yeah, it was quite difficult, but then it was worth it because I mean, both are the things that I'm passionate about.
Wow, actually, it's really commendable to do the two programs at a time, and it's a great applause to you, and also to the teachers also who supported you for your journey.
Definitely. They were really supportive. They went the extra mile. Everyone at TME, all teachers at TME were had that zeal in them to, you know, teach their students actual Japanese and not just be there as teachers. It was their they would derive this kind of pleasure out when their students would be able to speak Japanese or would able to make some kind of material in Japanese. That was something that they found rewarding. So I really thank them a lot for that.
So, at the same time, while you were doing the hotel management, you thought of Japanese, started learning a Japanese language, means taking up a degree in that or
Yeah,
diploma.
yes. So it was a degree. Uh, so that's when I thought of doing it at the same time because I wanted to attain both these skills at the same time and not spend too many years on just studying.
Yeah, it's like wasting our time.
Yeah, I mean, if I could manage both of them at the same time, why not? Why not do it?
Sure. So, you also received the scholarship, right?
Yes, the next scholarship.
Next scholarship was it was during your BA in Japanese, or you took up this like scholarship work after your BA?
Oh no, actually, you in a university at TMB, we all get an opportunity to give this exam to appear for the exam for next.
Mhm.
So during our second year or our third year, we get the chance to study, get trained, and then write the exam. If you get selected, then you give an interview with someone from the embassy, and then once you're selected, you get to choose your university in Japan. So that's how it happened, and I gave the exam. I studied really hard for this one special time in my life. I was like, I have to go there, so I studied really hard for that, and yeah, that's how I got the scholarship.
Since you were a student for MEC scholarship, so I wanted for others to know, other student to know that is there any special criteria for the MEC scholarship? Like you need to be diploma holder or degree holder or JLPT certified to apply for the MEC scholarship?
So the next has a lot of scholarships. It has something. It has a scholarship for Japanese language learners, as well as students who are doing science or medical sciences, life sciences. It has a lot of fields as well. But so for the Japanese learners, you need to know Japanese, of course, and you need to give an exam which has three different levels: the basic, intermediate, and advanced levels. And then you can apply. I mean, then you can aspire to go there for the Japanese language learners. But whereas for if you're doing something like mathematics or if you're doing sciences, you don't really need to know Japanese. You can just do well with your science and English knowledge. And as far as criteria goes for the Japanese scholarship, I think you need to be enrolled in a full-time course which is Japanese. So if you're doing a BA in Japanese, then you can apply for the MEX scholarship for Japanese language. Yeah, so you cannot really directly apply if you just know Japanese or if you just want to go there and learn Japanese. That's unfortunately not possible as of now.
Thank you for this wonderful information, because a lot of students will get benefit of that.
Yes.
They would know that what is the criteria, and they would learn more about it and explore this scholarship. So
Definitely.
what was the duration for your scholarship?
My scholarship was it was for 11 months. It also depends on the university that you choose, but it's mostly in the range of 11 to 12 months. And I had to stay there for a little longer because of the COVID scenario that was happening. So I got the chance to stay there for an extra of 3 months after my course completion, which I don't complain about.
Sure, nobody would.
Yes, definitely. So in those extra few months where I didn't have offline classes, I had online classes. I used that as an opportunity to travel and to work at a few places which I was interested in, and that's how I kind of learned more about the food and the culinary arts that they uh, have in their country.
So your scholarship was related to learning Japanese language, or it was related to somewhere hotel management?
It was totally related to Japanese languages. So the course was aiming to better yourself at Japanese language, and the end goal of the course was for the student to submit a research in any field. It could be anything that you are interested in, but the language of the research should be Japanese. So ultimately, the course is for Japanese language students in Japanese language.
And how was your experience in Japan, like from India to Japan? Was it a smooth process to be there, or it took some time or little more hard work as a student?
You mean to get adjusted there after going there, or you mean the kind of immigration process?
Yeah, immigration process from scholarship perspective, and then adjusting to Japan as an Indian.
So, as far as the process of applying to the scholarship and going there concerns, I think it was quite a lengthy procedure. It took us around almost a year. So we gave the exam in somewhere around we started preparing in December or something, and then we gave the exam in February, and we got our results late in September or October, and after that we got to apply to the universities and go to Japan. So it was almost one whole year that it took for us to wait for our results, and we all were like really tensed. Are we getting in? Are we not getting in? But yeah, worth the wait. And as far as getting adjusted after going to Japan is concerned, I think it might come as a culture shock for a lot of us going there, because a lot of Japanese people not very social. They're not very open to talk to strangers the way Indians do. So it is a bit of a shock initially, but I mean, if you're used to this, you get used to it quite soon, and then you know that that's how you know their boundaries. You know, it's their culture. Then I mean, it's all well and good.
So how was your experience in Chiba University, the university where you started learning Japanese language?
So Chiba University is again. I didn't want to go to Tokyo University because the cost of living in Tokyo is much higher than any other place in Japan, and Chiba is quite close to Tokyo, so that's why I chose Chiba University. And also, they had a lot of courses which were related to food, so that was the main reason I chose Chiba. And the experience there is really it's very varied, I would say, because not only it was Japanese language centered, but there were a lot of other courses like related to culture, related to food, related to history. There were even courses related to the history of India. I mean, I didn't take them up, but just to let you know that the courses was really varied in that university, and anyone could take any of those courses. So I personally, being interested in food and design and artwork, I took up a course which was about Japanese architecture for a month. Then I took up a course which was about cross-cultural exchange. I took up a course about religion in Japan. So it was quite varied for me. I liked it a lot. And I bring back a lot of knowledge from there, from the university.
Sure. So, have you got the chance after your scholarship got ended to go back to Japan?
I have been wanting to go back to Japan, but two things do not permit me yet to go back to Japan. One is my work, busy work schedule, and also the COVID scenario is not uh, very easy on tourists and travelers to go back and work. I mean, do anything there. So waiting for the borders to open up a little, become a little more relaxed, and yeah, maybe someday related to work, if I have to go there, I'd be really glad.
Sure. And so one thing more, you studied Japanese language in India also, means from Pune, and you studied Japanese language in Japan also. So is there a wide difference between the two countries, the pattern of, teaching, or what difference was there?
Um, Mainly the difference that is seen in Japanese language education in India and there is that uh, in India we are more exam centered, I would say. We are more goal oriented. We are more, we want to be the first in exams. We want to be good in everything, that kind of stuff. So it's usually the teaching is also tends to be a little exam oriented, but nonetheless I think teaching in at least TMV or where I studied was really amazing. It was really well planned. It was again very varied. It was not just language, but it was also culture. It was also some history, literature. All of it was well incorporated into the course. Whereas when I went to Japan, the kind of teaching is more it's left up to the student, you can say. It's like you do what you want, and the teachers just fuel you. They just guide you in a certain way. They do not really set paths for you which you have to travel. They just show you different ways, and then you choose what you want to do. It's that kind of a difference, I would say.
Sure. So how's your hotel management course, or on the other hand, Japanese language course helped you or helping you right now in your career?
You mean both of them together?
Both of them together.
I wouldn't generally imagine both of these running hand in hand, because if I studied hotel management and then did Japanese, I would one would generally wish to go to Japan and work there as a chef in a Japanese restaurant. That's the normal way a brain works. But why would an employer in Japan hire someone from India to cook Japanese food? That's again going against. I mean, what we would rather just hire Japanese people. So it does not really go hand in hand that way if you think of it that way. But of course, you can always create paths. You can pave your path. You can create your own opportunities. So this is one of them where I came back. I thought I should, since in India, Japanese food hasn't really got that kind of recognition or that kind of popularity. I mean, of course, people know about sushi and ramen and those kind of things, but again, it's in this very limited sense where the food isn't really the way it is in Japan. People haven't really learned to appreciate uh, the Japanese flavors or the Japanese way of philosophy of cooking. So I really wanted people back home, back in India, to know that uh, how different Japanese food is from the philosophy of Indian cooking. It's completely different. People want to respect the flavors of the ingredient, of an individual ingredient. So, for example, if I take a carrot, an Indian cooking mind would think I could make gajar ka halwa with it. I would grate it. I would mix it with ghee, cardamom, sugar, and make something like gajar ka halwa. But a Japanese mind would work in such a way that I wanted to look like carrot. I wanted to taste like carrot. I want the texture to be like carrot. And I don't want to add a lot of things to it to make it taste different. So the way we think is completely different when it comes to food. And that's something I want a lot of people to understand and appreciate. I mean, I appreciate Indian cooking as well. It's very complex. Our palates are very developed, but the other side of the world is also very beautiful, I would say.
Sure. Uh, you had a research topic of Wagashi. So what is Wagashi actually is?
So Wagashi is wa. The suffix, the prefix wa actually means Japanese or Japanese style, and okashi means sweets or snacks. So wagashi means Japanese style sweets, and these are basically Japanese sweets like Indian mithai. So they are basically mithai, and they include a lot of red bean paste, white bean paste. They have a lot of such sweets like mochi is something a lot of us already know. So it's that kind of stuff. But the main place where it's different from our concept of mithai is that it's very mildly sweet. Wagashi is never as sweet as we would imagine sweets to be, or any Westerner would imagine sweets to be. So it kind of tastes very mildly sweet, sometimes a little more on the savory side also. So if you give a 50-50 biscuit or a Mari biscuit to a Japanese person, they would call it an okashi or a sweet. So it's that level of sweetness. So it's very difficult for us to understand why they would call wagashi wagashi.
Oh. So if I ask Chef Brehadeesh to combine Indian and Japanese sweet, what I will get means a fusion. What would be a fusion one of that?
So this also was a part of my research. I tried making Indian sweets in such a way that Japanese people would like it, or at least accept it as sweets. So the main thing that you need to do is reduce the sweetness to a big drastic level. So I made gulab jamun. I made it with very less sugar. I also used tofu instead of mawa or khawa that you use in gulab jamun.
Yeah.
And also, one thing I realized throughout the research or throughout the sample that I had was that a small addition of citrus peel, like yuzu peel or orange peel, to the sweet really increases the likability of Japanese people towards Indian sweets. So if I added a bit of orange juice or a bit of orange peel to gajar ka halwa, reduce the sweetness, reduce the milkiness, they really like it. Excuse me. So, I mean, yeah, you can make Indian sweets, but you should keep in mind a few things like these because Japanese people have originally never been dairy consumers. So if you see traditional Japanese food, there is no dairy product. There's no yogurt, there's no milk, there's no cheese, butter in traditional Japanese food. So it's very obvious that when you give them a lot of milk, like Indians love milk. All our sweets are milk based. So if you add a lot of concentrated milk to sweets, they tend to not really enjoy it so much. So that's how Indian sweets, if they're fused with Japanese sweets, would turn out. A little less sweet, a little sour, and yeah, a little less fatty also. Less use of ghee and butter. They also do not tend to like spice in sweets. For them, spice is something that's used for curries. So if I put cardamom in sweets, they think, oh, why did you put masala to sweets? So yeah, if you're making sweets for Japanese, I would recommend avoiding cardamom or rose petals
Oh, rose petal
or
also.
yes, it's kind of a perfume for them. So it's like putting perfume inside your food. Yeah.
So before I ask my next question, I would like to know more about Ginkgo restaurant.
So Gingko is something that I have started with one of my batchmates, one of my friends from college. Her name is Siddhi Gokhale, and we studied in IHM together for 3 years. So she worked with Taj for a few years as a restaurant manager, and I was in Japan. So once I came back, she asked me if I would like to do something with her, or if I would like to, set up a restaurant with her. And we immediately started working on this idea. And that's how we started Ginkgo last year in January. So it's been exactly 1 year now.
Wow.
And we started off as a Southeast Asian restaurant. Like, I mean, we had a lot of cuisines. We had a little Japanese, we had a little Korean food, we had a little Thai and Indonesian food, because Pune being this place where there are a lot of Indians who have not really developed a taste for authentic Japanese food yet. I was a little unsure whether people would enjoy just Japanese food on the menu. But slowly, I just realized that there are a lot of people who enjoy Japanese food. There are a lot of people who have already had Japanese food, and they do appreciate the taste. So that's how the restaurant slowly became just Japanese from a lot of other food.
So it's a big step, and I can say it's a big transition from a multi-cuisine restaurant. It totally became a Japanese restaurant, and
Exactly.
it's really uh, a big thing from people's side, because I always heard that Indian people yet to absorb the Japanese culture or the cuisine, because
Yes.
taste is yet to develop by them.
Yes,
So
exactly. Japanese food does not have garlic, much of chilies, not
yeah.
too many of spices. So it's very difficult for Indians to understand the kind of flavor profiles that a Japanese, chef would incorporate into their food.
And what Ginkgo means actually?
So ginkgo is a tree. It's a tree called Ginkgo biloba. It's one of this well most common tree in Japan that you would see during the autumn season. You would see all leaves going yellow, and the streets completely covered in a blanket of yellow leaves. That's the ginkgo tree for a common person. So this tree is known to live for a really long time. It's known to live for thousands of years, uh, passing through all kinds of difficulties, all kinds of calamities like tsunamis, earthquakes, fires. And there have been trees which have lived for 2000 years through all of these calamities. So it's seen as a symbol of longevity, of long life, of passing through difficulties. So that's why we kind of named our restaurant Ginkgo, because we started
And
amidst the lockdown.
yeah, so
Exactly.
it's best suited for your restaurant, I guess, because it
Yes.
sustained lockdown. So how how was your experience in the lockdown? Because you started your restaurant in lockdown time, and then it was very difficult time for hospitality sector,
It
hospitality
was really
industry.
difficult for a lot of us. It was difficult for a lot of other industries as well. I would never dismiss that fact.
Yeah.
But for us, it wasn't really a big issue because you always can work around different difficulties in life, right? So we really thought that we should come up with something that works for delivery. So a lot of people were staying home. They wanted to have food at home. They wanted to have the experience of traveling without traveling. So I thought, why not make bento boxes? It's one box with different items in it, different things in it, which becomes one whole hearty meal. So that's how we started making bento boxes for guests, and it was quite good. Like, people were ordering quite a lot, and there were people who were ordering every week, every 2 days, every 3 days, and that's how we passed the lockdown. Actually, also it gave us the time to reorganize our ways of doing something, SOPs, our organization, our kitchen layout, a lot of things that we couldn't really do because the restaurant was busy when people used to come in and dine in. We had the time to now correct it because the restaurant was shut for a while. We could organize, we could clean, we could think again what we actually want to do, what we don't want to do. And that's how we used the lockdown. We made good use of it.
And I must say to all the listeners who's going to who's seeing this interview, like there was really a very cute or a very amazing thing which I got when I went to this Gingko restaurant, and that was a postcard type of thing. What you ate, what you have served in your plate, so you can you will be able to know how much calories.
During because I had time in my hands, I thought, why not make something that's nice and something that gives a personal touch. That's why, yeah, the lockdown was not at all an issue for us.
Uh, you completed your studies sometime back only. If I would say that this year we are celebrating 70th diplomatic relation between India and Japan. So if you were the student this year, what would you like to say, or what would have you done to bridge the gap between the two nations?
Being a student,
Being a student.
I actually feel that being a student, it's very important. In a way, you play a very important role because you are one of the, I would say, 2,000 to 3,000 students all over India who are learning Japanese, and it kind of becomes your responsibility to spread the correct information, or to spread awareness among your friends about what Japan actually is. Or since you know Japanese, you should spread the right kind of information to your Japanese friends about India. And there's a lot of things that's going around in both the countries about the other country, which is not really true. Like, for example, just to give you a small example, uh, a lot of Japanese people think that India is all about curry and naan and lassi. That's the main three things that Indians eat every day. I mean, which is not true. There's so much other variety in Indian food. There is so much other variety, vice versa, in Japanese food. But Indians think there's just I mean, Japanese just eat sushi all day, or Japanese just eat ramen all day. I mean, it's not true. So it's since you're learning Japanese, it becomes your responsibility that you kind of break these kind of misinformation that's going around everywhere. So I think that's how you should bridge the gap between the two countries. You should, in the field that you're interested, not just food, not just culture, the field that you're interested in. There are endless ways to, you know, get the two countries closer, get the two population, get the two people together. It's always possible. So that's something I would always tell people who are learning Japanese in India to be mindful about.
Sure. And since you are a chef, you know better that Japanese cuisine don't have much offering in vegetarian dishes cuisine.
Yes, that's true.
So how you manage people who are absolutely vegetarian, or what are the offerings for them?
This honestly for me is a very big problem at my restaurant, because I am this person who wants to serve our Indian guests authentic Japanese cuisine, but there is very little that I can think of which is vegetarian and authentic and Japanese. So it is a big challenge for me, but there are, of course, there are things that are fundamental to Japanese cuisine. There are things like dashi, making dashi with seaweed, or the broth the stock that they make with seaweed. And you can work around with those kind of fundamental principles of Japanese cooking and come up with something that's Japanese yet vegetarian. A lot of Japanese people recently are going vegan, and they themselves are doing those kind of things. So of course you can work around basics of Japanese food and create something that's vegetarian. That's what I've been doing in the past few months.
And any funny incident happened because of this in your restaurant?
There are always funny incidents. I can keep on counting on my fingers, but yeah, I mean, funny incident regarding vegetarian food, not really. But there have been a lot of people who have had Japanese food somewhere else in India, which is kind of fusion food, but they thought it's authentic. And then when they have this kind of food that's not at all, or someone dipping the sushi inside soy sauce for a very long time, and all the rice falling off the sushi, and then them not being able to eat it. So it's also our responsibility as people in the food industry to kind of tell people who are eating it for the first time, or someone who's trying it for the first time, to tell them in a nice way, or to tell them, educate them in a proper way, is this is how you eat it, or this is how you should enjoy it, this is how you eat it, and maybe that's how you'll enjoy it a little more than what you have been doing in the past. So that's something that quite often happens at our restaurant.
And is there any plan for other branches of Ginkgo in India
um
and in Japan near future?
about the branches, maybe not, because right now have we have Ginkgo, which is one, and I think if we make a lot of other branches, it not it might, but it definitely will kind of degrade our quality, because we all can't be at different places at the same time. So it becomes difficult to maintain the same kind of quality, maintain the same kind of training, or have the same kind of vision for all of our staff. So I think not branches, but in terms of expansion, I think we would definitely want to increase our capacity, seating capacity, or those kind of things. Like have a bigger place rather than having many places.
So for all the listeners, I would say that wherever you are, if you want to try the authentic Japanese cuisine, you have to come down to Pune, and
Yes, you must.
it will be worth, actually, because I tried and a lot of people with me tried. So it will be a worth to visit. And people who are in Pune, they can absolutely go anytime.
Yes, definitely. It's always right at your doorstep. It's very close to a lot of people in Kothur because this side of town doesn't have Japanese restaurants. So a lot of people are actually regular customers. We have a lot of Japanese guests who come all the way down from Kalyani Nagar, from Viman Nagar, just to have homely food. So yeah, please do come over.
Okay, Brehadeesh, since you are chef, you know the Japanese language. Right now, IJBC is creating a Japanese language directory, or I would say not a Japanese language, but a bilingual directory.
Right.
So, what is your expectation from that? What would you like to have that directory, or something you would like to say?
I think it's a very good initiative that IJBC has taken to make a bilingual directory uh, for this kind of awareness or this kind of network creation that you guys are doing. I would expect that it brings this small community that we have that speaks Japanese, or which is really working day in and day out to bring Japan and India closer. If you're making a community out of that, it's really great, and it would be really resourceful for us as well. If, for example, if I am a chef and I'm in the food industry and I need help from someone who is in a different industry, or if vice versa, if someone else wants help from someone who knows about Japanese food or Japanese language in terms of Japanese food, I think it would be really good. It would be a great thing to connect with different people of different industries who all can speak Japanese and an Indian language. So I think it's a great platform to connect, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Sure. Okay, so before I close this interview, I would like to know that what Brihadish do after his tremendous work day in day out. What is your hobbies?
My, I mean, to be honest, uh, being in the food and beverage industry, we hardly get time off because we work from morning till night, like late in the night. I come back home at 11:30, 12 sometimes. And then the next, I mean, you just sleep and then you wake up and go back to work. And most of the times when people are holidaying, people are having weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, that's when we are more busy. So yeah, I mean, we don't have really a lot of time to pursue our hobbies, but whenever I find that time, I make sure I go out. I like reading a lot of books which are related to Japanese food, or books which are in Japanese about Japanese food. That way I kind of can stay in touch with the language because I'm living in India now, and I don't really have much opportunity to speak Japanese or to read and write Japanese. So I make it a point to read some books in Japanese when I have a day off, and of course take some rest. But otherwise, my hobbies include artwork and painting, making sculptures. Yes.
Sure. And what is the thing you really like about Japanese people, and you want it should be adopted or it should be understand, rather I would say, by the Indians?
There are a lot of things which we can learn from the Japanese. There are a lot of things Japanese people could learn from Indians. But in short, if we had something that we should or we must learn from Japanese, I think it's social decorum and punctuality. These are two things which are really, which create a stark contrast between India and Japan. People there think twice about doing anything in public. They think whether their actions would affect everyone else around them, and if it doesn't, only then they would take that action. So if I had to walk somewhere, if I had to put something down on the streets, I would think twice. If this affects someone, I will not do it. If it does not, then I might do it. So it's always thinking about others, being considerate about others before thinking about yourself. And of course, being on time, being organized, organizing your schedule really well so that you don't really disappoint anyone else. You don't waste anyone else's time. You do not disrespect anyone else. it's very important that you organize your schedules. So these are two things that we definitely can learn from the Japanese people.
And anything you would like to add from this platform you want to say to the audience from the platform of IJBC?
There is one thing that I would like to say is that in recent years, since our technology has developed so much, we have so much ease of access to everything. We have internet, we have phones, we have internet while we walk on the streets. It is so much easier to connect with a lot of other people, to know a lot about others, to know a lot about other countries. So take this opportunity, use your time, and just connect with people, learn more about Japan in this specific context. I would say, I mean, if you're interested about knowing about Germany, go ahead, do that. If you're interested in Japan, Japanese people, Japanese food, go ahead, do that. You have all the resources. You have a lot of free resources, where resources which are paid, but they're totally worth it. You can learn a new language. It kind of opens this whole new world to you, right? So yeah, go ahead and do that. It's really a once in a lifetime experience. You get to know a lot of new things. Your perspectives in life change. So yeah, that's something I want to convey to everyone who's listening.
Thank you, Brehadeesh, for joining us. It was pleasure talking to you, and a lot of new things audience would definitely get to know about food industry, about scholarship, the study in Japan, everything.
Yes, thank you, Shaifali. Then thank you, IJBC, for doing this today, for inviting me over and letting me speak about my experiences. It was totally a pleasure talking to you and sharing my experience with everyone. And I hope this continues and you bring in more people from different walks of life, different industries, and create this wonderful platform that you have done. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So that was Brehadeesh Kumar with me on this episode of Fireside Chat with Shaifali, a young chef and restaurateur by profession and also by passion, who aims to bridge the gap between two nations, introducing the cuisine among two nations. Don't forget to visit our website www.ijbc.org for more details and upcoming events. And also don't forget to subscribe our IJBC official YouTube channel. Thank you. Bye-bye. Namaste.
Thank you. Bye bye.